today's video is going to be 6th grade math, chapter 4, lesson 5. We are converting measurement units today. We do have some vocabulary that we need to take care of today. That vocabulary is going to include, let me see if I can get to the draw feature, unit ratio, and dimensional analysis. So, basically, let's go ahead and get into it. The real world link. The table shows the approximate weights in tons of several large land animals. 1 ton is equivalent to 2,000 pounds. You can use the ratio table to convert each weight from tons to pounds. So, if we look at our table, grizzly bear weighs 1 ton, white rhino weighs 4 tons, hippo weighs 5 tons, African elephant weighs 8 tons. Now, as the information that was given to us says, 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds. Now, what we would normally do is we would see how many tons and then just multiply it by 2,000. 1 times 2,000 is 2,000. 4 times 2,000 would be 8,000. 5 times 2,000 would be, let's see if we can get this to be a little bigger. 5 times 2,000 would be 10,000. And then 8 times 2,000 would make a grand total of 16,000. Now, we are going to go ahead and look at the coordinate plane shown here. We're going to go ahead and introduce graphing just a little bit today. Basically, what the graph shows is the graph, the ordered pairs from tons to pounds from the table on the coordinate plane. So basically, the table we just had. So 1 ton would be 2,000 pounds, which is right there. 2,000, this is all in 2000s. 2 tons would be 4,000. 3 tons would be 6,000, and so on. 4 tons would be 8,000. 5 tons would be 10,000. 6 tons, 12,000. And if you look at our chart and we graph this, it's one solid line just going straight diagonally up. We're going to get into graphing a lot more soon. So in class, as we talked about, this is going to be the part of the book. So this is page 290. I told you guys to either convert this into your book, meaning copy it down in there, or you can actually cut this out of your book since your book is a consumable. I would highly suggest you have this in your notebook. This is going to be a game changer when it comes to your test because you need to know your customary conversions. It has it broken down into 3 sections: length, weight, and capacity. Weight, we deal with 1 pound equals 16 ounces. 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds. Length, we kind of all know this: foot to inches. 1 yard equals 3 feet. 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. And then capacity, cups, pints, quarts, and gallons, and fluid ounces. Please make sure you have this in your notebook. I would not recommend pausing the video and trying to write this down as it is kind of blurry. I would definitely take your textbook out and look at it. Cut it out if you guys want to, make a copy of it, whatever you guys need, but it needs to be in your notebook. So we're going to actually talk about a unit ratio right now and how this all relates back to fractions. So, like a unit rate, a unit ratio is one in which the denominator is 1 unit. So the ratio 3 feet to 1 yard is a unit ratio. That means that there's 3 feet in 1 yard. Another unit ratio example. So again, the unit needs to be on the bottom, 1 unit. So if we look at 1 foot as a unit ratio, what would equal 1 foot? 12 inches. This would be a unit ratio to inches to feet. Another unit ratio, other capacity not talked about here, would be 1 hour. Unit ratio for 1 hour would be 60 minutes. And going on with the time theme, maybe our unit ratio is 1 day. That would be 24 hours. Maybe it's 1 week. That would be 7 days, etc., etc. So these are unit ratios. A unit ratio will almost always have the unit at the bottom. And I'm going to explain why I said almost always, because it gets a little blurry. The line gets blurred later on in the lesson. But if we're going to talk about just write a unit rate, the unit, the 1, needs to be on the bottom. So if I say, please write a unit rate for the month of October for days. So you'd put 1 month. And this, assuming this is October, it would be 31 days over 1 month. That would be our unit rate. And I say October because some have 30 days and February has 28 and 29 every 4 years. So you need to be specific. So if one of your questions is one of those, like, what is the unit rate for, I don't know, let's go back to our thing. Let's say, what is the unit rate for pints to cups? It would be 1 pint is equal to 2 cups. And this would be our unit rate. 2 cups equals 1 pint equals 2 cups. The 1 needs to be on the bottom if we're talking about unit rate or ratio. All right, moving on. Our other vocab term for this is dimensional analysis. Dimensional analysis is the process of including units of measurement as factors when you compute. In the English, this means basically comparing what a unit would be like if we were to break it down into smaller measurements of unit. It's comparing the two. It's like saying 1 foot equals 12 inches and breaking it down and showing the work. Even breaking down a foot into maybe millimeters or centimeters, things like that. That would be dimensional analysis, when you're showing that this measurement is equal to this measurement, which is also equal to this measurement, and so on. So we're going to go ahead and do an example. I'm going to show you how this factors in with the fraction thing. So we're going to convert 20 feet to inches. Since 1 foot equals 12 inches, the unit ratio is 12 inches to 1 foot. Now, they want us to get used to using fractions. So what we would do here is 20 feet times 12 over 1, or 12 inches over 1 foot. As you can tell, they don't put the 20 over 1 like we normally would, but we're going to go ahead and show you here. So they want us to convert 20 feet. They want to know how many inches is in 20 feet. This would be the same thing as multiplying by 12 over 1, because 1 foot equals 12 inches. This goes back to those ratios. We have our mystery component. Instead of trying to work backwards and find what our mystery component is, we now don't have an equal sign. We have a multiplication sign. They're not going to be equal to each other. We're actually going to multiply. So instead of having this mystery number over here, it just becomes 1, because it needs to be a factor or a fraction. So it'll be 20 over 1 times 12 over 1. We do ignore, the book shows us that we cross out the feet. It's because our answer is going to be in inches. So the feet can go away. Now, we all know 1 times 1 is just going to equal 1, but we need to do 20 times 12. I'm going to put 2 on the bottom. I know I should put 0 on the bottom, but it's fine. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 2 is 4. Placeholder is 0, and I'm going to move the screen up a little bit. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 2 is 2. This will become 240 over 1, which just means it's going to be 240 inches. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Why couldn't I just multiply 20 by 12 to begin with? And I get you. I understand where you're coming from. The book wants us to do this way. So you can do it that way. I just have to teach you how to do it using fractions regardless. I will say this. Sometimes it won't be this simple, which is why the unit ratio comes in handy. So let's see if we can do one of these on our own without any guidance and I can show you this. So we're going to go ahead and start with letter A, example A. 36 yards equals how many feet? Now this is why it is very important that you put this chart in your notebook. 1 yard equals 3 feet. So that is what is going to be important here. We want to know how many yards, 36 yards is going to be how many feet. So I can help you set you up. It will be 36 over 1 times, and then remember, 1 yard equals 3 feet. This is also 36 yards, and as we have determined, we get rid of the yard because our answer is going to be in feet. And we just multiply across, and I understand this is 36 times 3. This is going to be over 1. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and pause this here and figure out what 36 times 3 is. Okay, now that you've hopefully paused and solved it and unpaused, let's go ahead and work this out. 3 times 6 would be 18. Carry the 1. 3 times 3 is 9, plus the 1, which would be 10. So this would be 108 feet over 1, which just becomes 108 feet. And that would be our answer. We're going to go ahead and double check our work just to make sure we did everything correctly. So 1 yard equals 3 feet. If there's 36 yards, that means 3 feet for every yard. We're going to multiply this by 3, 108. So our answer is 108 feet. 108 feet are in 36 yards. That was correct. This now is a perfect example of why we set up our question the way we did. This is now 3/4 of a ton, not a full ton. 3/4 of a ton will equal how many pounds? So let me show you guys how to set this one up. Since our number is already a fraction and not a whole number that we have to put over 1, this is just going to be 3/4 of a ton. 1 ton is equal to 2,000 pounds. Now we're going to cross out the tons and we're just going to multiply straight ahead. Now that this is no longer a 1 and this is a game changer, we can actually cross simplify if we would like, where the 4 and the 2,000 have something in common. Now let me go ahead and erase all of this extra stuff here because this is essentially 3/4 times 2,000 over 1. I'm going to go ahead and cross simplify these. I know 4 can go into 4, so this will just become 1. And I know 4 can go into 2,000, so this is where we're going to have to divide. 4 will go into 20 5 times. That will equal 20. Nothing left over, but these 2 zeros will come up. So if I divide 2,000 by 4, I will actually end up getting 500. Now I'm just going to multiply straight across. I already know 1 times 1 is going to be 1. I'm going to erase this pounds here because we know that our answer is going to be in pounds. And I do 3 times 500. You could set this up, or you could just do 3 times 5, which you know is going to be 15, and then annex the 2 zeros from earlier. Or just do 3 times 0 is 0, 3 times 0 is 0, 3 times 5 is 15. So 3/4 of a ton should equal 1,500 pounds. And this is why we show you how to do this as fractions in case you ever get set up with a fraction. Instead of getting a full ton or a whole number we can put over 1, we need to know how to do this as a fraction. And we are there again with C, 1 1/4 quart to pints. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at quarts to pints. 1 quart equals 2 pints. So I'm going to go ahead and set up this half of my equation. For every 1 quart, there are 2 pints. So this is 2 over 1. Now, so quarts to pints. For every 1 quart, there are 2 pints. So I'm essentially doubling this. But because it is a fraction, I need to be able to convert this 1.5. So instead of doing 1.5 times 2 over 1 or times 2, I'm going to go ahead and change this into a mixed number. Or sorry, this already mixed number. I'm going to turn this mixed number into an improper fraction. Whole number times denominator, add it to the numerator over the original denominator. So I already know this is going to be over 2. 1 times 2 is 2, plus the 1 is 3. Put that over 2. So 1.5 becomes 3 over 2. I'm going to go ahead and shift this over. Now remember, our answer is going to be in pints. This originally was quarts. Yep, 1.5 quarts. So these get crossed out. Our answer is in pints. Let me erase, and I'm going to move pints over here. I'm going to use a different color. My answer is going to be in pints. I'm going to go ahead and cross simplify here because I have a 2 and I have a 2. Guess what? Those automatically become 1s, which makes my life a whole heck of a lot easier. 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 over 1, this would become just 3 pints. So 1.5 quarts becomes 3 pints. Now, there is one other part that I need to teach you guys, and that is when it does not work with a unit ratio. And I know that's a little confusing, but let's go ahead and skip over these. Let's see if we can skip over these. Marco mixes 1/4 cup fertilizer with soil before planting each bulb. How many fluid ounces of fertilizer is used for each bulb? Yeah, you guys know how to do that. We just taught you that. But this is where everything changes. When we convert to smaller units to larger units, what we've been doing right now is converting larger units to smaller units. And this is where things are going to change. So, for example, let's say I'm trying to find how many feet there are in 1 yard. Remember, 1 yard equals 3 feet. I'm converting the 12 down to a smaller number, but a larger unit of measurement. So, if that makes any sense. So let me give you guys a comparison. Let's just say this is 3 feet, 3 steps. 3 feet. This can also just be measured as 1 yard. So for every 3 feet I have 1 yard. If I'm converting feet into yards, whatever number I have in feet is going to become smaller. So for example, let's say I have 9 feet. There's 9 feet. How many yards did someone travel if they walked 9 feet? If 3 feet equals 1 yard, every 3 feet is going to be 1 yard. I'm basically taking that 9 and dividing it by 3, which means 9 feet equals 3 yards. That goes against what we've been learning so far. What we've been learning is to put that 1 yard at the bottom and put the 3 feet on top. But that would be if I'm converting yards to feet. So here's a little trick I'm going to teach you. Let's say I am going to convert, let's use the example we have here, from quarts to gallons. So let's go up here. 1 quart equals 2 pints. So this is where we're going to use a chain thing. 1 pint equals 2 cups. This is going to be a lot. So we're trying to figure out 4 quarts equals 1 gallon. So let's go back to this. 15 quarts to gallons. So if 1 gallon equals 4 quarts, we could have just read right here. Since 1 gallon equals 4 quarts and the quarts are smaller units than gallons, use the ratio 1 gallon over 4 quarts. That may seem a little tricky, and I'm going to show you something. So when we start writing out our equation, 15 gallons, since this is a whole number, it's going to be over 1. Now, notice earlier when we were canceling out the measurements, that means my gallon needs to be down here. Whatever my measurement of gallons is, they need to be apart from each other. The other side will have whatever measurement we're converting it to, and we're converting it into quarts. So I can't have the gallon and the gallon across from each other. I need to have whatever 1 gallon is on the bottom in this case. So this would be 1 gallon, and for every 1 gallon there are 4 quarts. And this would be my setup. I would multiply it like this. Basically what I'm doing is multiplying 15 times 4 because we have a 1 here and we have a 1 here. The gallons will go away, they cancel out, and we just multiply straight across. 15 times 4, off the top of my head, I believe that's 90, but let's check. 4 times 5 is 20. See, I'm wrong. It wasn't 90, it was 60. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2 is 60. So my answer is 15 gallons equals 60 quarts. Let's do another example because I feel like that wasn't clear enough. So let's do this. I'm trying to think of something. All right, let's do minutes to hours because I know this isn't in the book. So let's say I have 120 minutes. I want to change this to hours. So I cannot put 1 hour at the bottom like I normally do and say 60 minutes equals 1 hour. I can't because I'm not converting minutes to minutes. I'm converting minutes to hours. So my minutes needs to be at the bottom. 60 minutes is the equivalent to 1 hour. I will put my 120 over 1 and I will multiply straight across. This will eventually give me 120 divided by 60, which, if we do that, will equal 2. So 120 minutes equals 2 hours. Yes, there is multiplication involved, but if you notice, we end up getting an improper fraction in the end. So that's the one thing I'm going to show you is, if you've noticed, all the examples I did earlier on, we ended up having an improper fraction with like a 1 in it, and it turned out to be something easy because the 1s were on the bottom. When we do smaller units of measurement, we actually end up with other numbers at the bottom and not just 1. We end up with an actual division problem at the end. Because when we convert larger units, sorry, I'm all over the place. When we converted these larger units to technically smaller units, which made the numbers bigger, and that's where I'm going to lose a lot of you guys, and it's kind of hard. So let's take a deep breath and let's just listen here, because I know my brain's hurting even saying it because it doesn't compute. All right, let's go ahead. Let's restart. Let's re-engage. Okay. So remember, when you use bigger units of measurement, they equal smaller units of measurement in bigger numbers. So again, like 1 foot will equal 12 inches. Smaller number, but bigger unit of measurement. Bigger number, smaller unit of measurement, because 1 foot is bigger than 1 inch. 12 inches makes up 1 foot. You need more of those to make up the bigger measurement. Then it takes 3 feet to make up 1 yard. Smaller number, bigger measurement. Bigger number, smaller measurement. Yards are bigger than feet. And so on. So when you convert a larger unit of measurement into a smaller unit of measurement, we usually are going to set these up with a unit ratio. So let's go ahead and convert pounds to ounces to illustrate this procedure. So let's say I'm going to pick 3 pounds. I want to find out how many ounces 3 pounds equals. Notice that I'm going to put my 1 pound here at the bottom. And we talked about this because this is going to go over 1. Let me rewrite pounds in a different color so it doesn't look like 31. And then this doesn't look like 11. So this is 3 pounds. We want to find out how many pounds can go into ounces. And then again, 1 pound equals 16 ounces. So my unit rate is going to be 16 ounces equals 1 pound. This is how I started off. Notice that when I'm using a bigger unit of measurement converted to a smaller unit of measurement, I'm going to have the 1 here. Now, not always going to have the 1 here unless it's a whole number. Because remember, in the example we used earlier, we had 3 tons, 3/4 of a ton. Ton's definitely bigger than a pound, but I didn't have a 1 here because this was a fraction. So it's not always guaranteed to have a 1 in this side, but it will have the 1 in the unit rate because we're going to be using the unit rate. We would just multiply straight across, which would give me 16 times 3 over 1. 3 times 6 is 18. Carry the 1, 3. So my answer would be, because remember we cancel out the pounds, 48 ounces. Because 48 over 1 is just 48. Therefore, 3 pounds is the equivalent to 48 ounces. This is when we use unit rate. Now, let's continue using the ounces to pounds. Now I'm going to convert a smaller measure of measurement into a larger one. So I'm going to pick a random number because I know I'm not going to end up with a real good number here. But let's go ahead and say we're still using the same quarts to pounds thing. Or sorry, ounces to pounds. 1 pound equals 16 ounces. Let's just pick a random number. Let's say 24. I want to know how many pounds 24 ounces is. Now remember, ounces on this side means ounces needs to be here. This is where I flip my unit ratio. The ounces need to be diagonally across from each other. Therefore, pounds will be on top. And remember, the ounces will be canceled out because my answer is going to be in pounds. Now I'm just going to multiply straight ahead, which would actually end up giving me 24 divided by 16. Because remember, every 1 pound has 16 ounces in it. So I'm just going to do 24 divided by 16, and I'm going to do that over here. $16 will only go into 24 one time. When I subtract, I believe it's 8, but let's do this. 4 minus 6 cannot do. Borrow. 14 minus 6 will be 8. And 1 minus 1. So I will have 1 and 8/16 of a pound. Because I try to figure out how many ounces, how many pounds 24 ounces was. But this isn't simplified because that's not simplified. Both have 8 and 16, or 8 in common, which would actually convert down to, if I divided these both by 8, it would be 1.5 pounds is my answer. Now I'm almost certain, my head hurts trying to explain the difference when we do a larger unit to a smaller unit and vice versa. And I know you guys probably are confused too. So I'm going to actually go ahead and do something a little different than I normally do. And we're going to actually ignore these. And we're going to go ahead and, actually, you know what? We're not going to ignore those. No. Let's go ahead and at least do one of these. Let's do G really quick. Cups to pints. And then I'm actually going to pull some questions from the homework really quick. So we're trying to figure out how many 3 cups, remember this is going to be 3 over 1, times, and we want pints. We want pints. So whatever our pints equal is on top our cup to pint measurement is going to look like this. Cup needs to be on the bottom because we have to be switching it. So let's see. Cups to pints. 1 cup, 1 pint equals 2 cups. So this will be 2, this will be 1. Now we're going to multiply straight ahead. 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 2 is 2. We are canceling out the cups because our answer is going to be in pints. 3 over 2 is an improper fraction. 3 divided by 2. 2 will go into 3 once. That'll equal 2. 1 will be left over. My answer is 1 1/2 pints. So again, the big key thing is when you're converting, make sure that since this cup is in the numerator, the other cup needs to be in the denominator. We wouldn't use our unit rate here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull a question off of the homework that I know is going to be highlighting both of these. So cups to fluid ounces, let me see. Even I need to refer back to the chart. So cups to fluid ounces, this is larger to smaller, which is normal. Let's try to pick one that's a smaller to larger. That's larger to smaller, miles to feet, pounds to tons. This is a perfect example. Let's use 9, number 9. We are converting pounds to tons. This is a smaller unit of measurement to bigger unit of measurement. If we look at all of these other ones, we're actually going larger to smaller. Pint to cup, I need to double check that one. So that might be another one good too. Yeah, larger to small. So almost all of these up until number 9 is going to be large to small. 9 is our first example of small to large. So we're doing 3,000 pounds to tons. We want to find out how many tons 3,000 pounds equals. So 3,000 pounds. Now, we need to put pounds at the bottom again because they need to be directly opposite from each other. Our tons is going to be here. So 2,000 pounds equals 1 ton. I know that from before. If we want to check our table, we can. 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds. I'm going to go ahead and multiply straight across. I'm going to move this because I wrote it a little too big, but 3,000 times 1 will be 3,000. 1 times 2,000 will be 2,000. Improper fraction. I will need to divide. Now, the way I would do this is I'm going to annex these zeros for a second. I'm just going to do 3 divided by 2. 2 will go into 3 one time. When I subtract, I will get 1. 1 1/2. The reason why I annex those zeros, I'm not going to bring them back now, is because these zeros will all get to cancel out. It's like a fraction. 3,000 over 2,000. I'm just going to divide each one by 1,000, which will simplify it down to 3 over 2. Now, if for any reason any of these numbers were different, where it was like 3,001 over 2,000, then I have to do 3,001 divided by 2,000. I can't shortcut that and get rid of the zeros. But me chopping off these zeros is the same thing as dividing both of these by 1,000, which gives me 3 over 2, which is why I did it this way. 1 1/2. So my answer would be 1 1/2 tons. And if I look at my homework, that was number 9. Number 9 is 1 1/2 tons. So I do hope I didn't hurt your head too much in this video. I know my head is throbbing from trying to explain it. Again, some of you are like, well, why can't I just multiply and divide? You can. It's just I have to kind of show you how to use ratios because sometimes you're not going to get a perfect whole number. You're going to get a fraction. And that's perfectly fine for you to do it the other way if you would like. I just have to show you how to use it as a ratio and elicit fractions in there. So I already know that some of us are going to have major problems with this lesson, and we're going to have a lot of questions. This is why we put aside a little bit extra time for this one. So please go ahead and ask questions. Even if it goes to next Monday, we can review this lesson multiple days if needed. But as always, this is Mr. P. I will see you guys on the next one.